Welcome to the Dr. Mike Show on RVTV Community Access Television or rvtv.sou.edu on the internet. This is real interactive TV, and it would help if somebody would hit the teleprompter, please. Thank you. I told you it was real. I am your host, Michael Rhodes. I am not a real doctor. I have a master's degree in psychology and education. I also have a CADC-3, which deals with chemical dependency and related obsessive conditions. I also have a private practice in Bedford at the Upper Rogue Wellness Center and about 25 years of experience in the field, which is now developing in some amazing ways. Exploring these new frontiers is what this program is all about. Here's the interactive part. You can call in, well, we don't have a number tonight, but you can get to Dr. Mike on the Google Hangout. And we should have, there we are, we do have that up there for you. I also have previous episodes of Dr. Mike available at archive.org. Search for Dr. Mike and my last name, Rhodes, R-H-O-A-D-E-S. If you're interested in video of my class series on panic, anxiety, stress, and anger, also on archive.org, search terms PASA, P-A-S-A, and Rhodes. The way this works is that I'm going to share what I've been thinking about lately, and then you are welcome to share what's on your mind. Maybe I'll be able to think of something that might be helpful. Last time, we talked about dealing with grief and loss due to the recent tragic death by suicide of Robin Williams. Tonight, however, we are going to look at another tragic celebrity headline, the video of the violence between Ray Rice and his now wife, Janae. Many of us have seen this brutal clip of Ray knocking his fiancée at the time out in the casino elevator. This deeply shocked us. Many of the media advised Mrs. Rice to leave, though we know that is no guarantee for her safety. As they shame and shun Mr. Rice, how can we effectively respond to this social challenge? In the studio with me are two independent filmmakers working on a project that may shed some valuable light on this question. Let me introduce and welcome Barbara Peters, Hollywood director and producer, and now residing in Phoenix, Oregon, and Marlene Misch, past director of the Children's Advocacy Center. They're currently working to raise money for a documentary on this issue. Welcome.
Welcome.
Thank you.
And so tell me about this documentary. What is the name of it and how did it get its title?
Well, it's called Inheritance of Rage. And it's just actually it's very organic. The cycle of rage is inherited, and it's an inheritance that continues and continues until today we have an epidemic of violence. I'm going to kind of avoid using the word domestic violence for our discussion this evening because I think that minimizes the scope of the problem. So we'll just talk about violence, if that's, are we agreed?
I agree.
And Marlene?
Well, I think we're in a very teachable moment right now. Just as when the Sandusky case came to the forefront in child sex abuse, and suddenly the light was shined on that, and it caused an uproar in the country, and therefore people started looking at that, and a lot of incredible things have come out in terms of prevention training that were there all along, but now because of something bad happening, people start looking at it. We think that this things that are happening in sports, and sports is particularly, I would say, beloved subject of people in our country. We love our heroes. We love them. We're fans. We get hats and all that kind of thing. And we don't like it when our heroes have feet of clay. And I think this idea of that our people we admire and are fans of and will pay money to see them play are capable of doing bad things, hurtful things to others. And this gives us an opportunity to work as a community to take a look at this. We need to change that, put that lighting, like you have a big light right there shining on me, put that lighting on this topic. And as Barbara says, and I totally agree with her, it's just domestic violence is a misnomer. We're not always just talking about violence that happened in the bedroom, in the kitchen, in the garage, and out in front of the house. We're not talking just about that, although we are talking about that. And we want to have people understand by education, and I'm an educator, so that's where I'll be coming from. She's a filmmaker, that's where she's coming from. So that we can start educating our children from the very beginning. We obviously are going to make interventions with the adults who act out, but that is not going to solve the problem. What is going to begin to solve the problem of this inheritance, because this action by this adult had its roots somewhere.
Yes.
And so we want to start educating everybody, but recognize that no lasting change is going to happen in our country, in our communities, in our homes, unless we start educating and taking responsibility for the children.
Right.
Yes, we need to deal with all three victims at the same time. The perpetrator is a victim as well, and it's a different kind of victim. But also, the woman is a victim, the child is a victim, and unless all three are treated and dealt with equally on an intensive term, we've only then picked at one part of the problem. We have not started the real solution.
So we're talking about a really long-range process.
I think so.
Right. And I think we've been struggling with this no matter what. If you're working with families or children, I can speak for at the Advocacy Center, you get a child that's been victimized, and that usually you don't just have a happy little family and a little sex abuse from 2 to 4 on Sunday afternoon. Usually there's like a whole chaos existing in that house.
Can you explain a little bit what the Children's Advocacy Center is, your role, what happens
Okay,
there?
well that's a wonderful organization that is the really front line. Any child that is alleged victim of child sex abuse is brought to the center for a number of services, with the idea that it's very traumatizing to keep telling your story. If you have, in the old days when they would get a report, they'd interview the child in front of a perpetrator, and they might interview the child in front of a teacher in the hallway, all kinds of crazy things that were re-traumatizing to children. This model is what's been accepted all across the nation, really, is that you bring children to a center that looks like a home, and the child is interviewed by a person, that they develop a trust with them. They're seen by a doctor there. They're assessed by therapists there and a number of other programs, so that they begin to see that place as a place for healing. But to dovetail on what you're talking about, what is always missing in the programs, in my opinion, is that we do some fixing on the kids. Whether the kid is a victim of child physical abuse or verbal abuse or sex abuse, these are all violence.
Yes,
It's
talk
all-
about,
it's all
the more you
violence.
treat them, the more you
Yes.
find out
And
that
what
there
we-
was domestic
Yes,
violence.
I was when I was a counselor at Beverly Hills High School. A lot of kids were victims of violence. A lot of kids were victims of sexual violence. The same here in Medford when I was a principal for Crossroads Alternative School. What was happening every day? People got in fights,
Right.
and they got into fights because that's all they knew. They were the only resources that they had. And then later in the courts, working with the DA's office, and later with the CAC. But the point is that you can't fix a problem a little bit over here and then put that child back in that system that's broken. And so you first acknowledge that the whole system is broken. And all those parts need to be worked on and looked at, because that child goes back into this system.
Right.
And what happens is, if you take your coping skills that you've learned with, let's say, with violence, being a witness to violence has horrible ramifications for one's adult life. You take that child back here, that child starts to act differently, and then the family turns on the child. And so the child becomes the betrayer of the family dynamic. And so these are all, little drops of water in a giant ocean of ideas that we need to look at and we need to be aware of. And we want to educate the general public about
Right.
what most
Well,
of
and I
us
think-
have studied about.
Yeah, I think that what the documentary is trying to do is to make a cohesive vision of the history of violence, where it's come up to now, solutions, and there's a wealth of people who really are very much involved on a day-to-day basis of helping victims, but they don't know about each other. Oh, they know about the big ones, the popular ones, the ones that have all the grant monies and things. But there are small groups out there in small rural towns that are doing a lot, but they are not connected to the whole network. And I think that if we can make a cohesive documentary that gives us a real overall scope of just what are we talking about here, and then go into the solutions and things. This documentary should be seen by law enforcement, social workers, teenagers, teachers, all across the boards. And actually, the NFL, if they were interested,
Right.
on coming aboard on a sponsorship level, could do a great deal for getting this documentary seen by all of these groups, and Boy Scouts and Girl Scouts
Right.
And
you name
soldiers
it.
coming back from
But if
war.
you have,
And
if
violence.
you've all read the same book, then you have a reference of communication. And that's
Right.
what this documentary is meant to be, is that reference book. Not that it will give all the answers and tell everything. It's not the Bible. It's let's start here.
Right.
And then I hope that it will prompt people and healthcare workers and a lot of people to go forward with it and say, well, what about if we did this?
Right. So this is a work in progress at this point.
Oh, yes, very much so.
Okay.
We've done a great deal of the research, but now we need to mobilize. Now we need to go to Washington. We need to go to Coffee Creek. We need to start doing our away from our space here,
Yeah.
and doing the interviews and covering the things that we need to cover.
There are many people are coming out now, even from where the situation been quite a long time ago, but they're
Oh, my
this
phone is
moving.
going off the hook.
I can imagine. You also, I think, brought a clip for us.
I did.
So
I did.
wonderful.
It's it appears on the Indiegogo site, but it's the piece that we originally made to go out and speak to Rotaries in different
okay.
places, and I believe your people have it.
Well, let's see if we can see that. Can we roll the clip, as they say?
It's a raging epidemic and a vicious cycle.
No, we
Domestic
can't
violence.
hear it because
Did
of
you
people.
know that every 9 seconds a woman is
Started it late.
assaulted or beaten? Every 9 seconds. And it doesn't stop there. The Office for Violence Against Women reports that 3 women die at the hands of their abusers each day. As a journalist, I've had the difficult task of reporting on these horrific stories and the growing epidemic of domestic violence, not only here in our region,
Hey, Michael,
but
can you hear me?
around the country. And my dear friend Barbara Peters of Silver Fox Films has been researching this issue for the last 3 years, and she's interviewed countless victims of domestic violence. Victims at the hands of their boyfriends, their spouses, their parents, even victims of a flawed system, all who, by any means
Hi,
necessary,
can you guys hear me?
become survivors. Barbara is now in the
Okay.
process of creating this documentary, but she can't do it alone. She needs all of our help. I hope you'll find it in your heart to donate to what is sure to be a significant...
Okay, I'm
instrument
talking
of
now.
change.
Can you hear me? Can you hear me? Hi, hi, hi. Hello there. Hello, 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 hello. Hi, hi, hi. Hi. Talking, talking, talking. I'm talking. I'm talking. Hi, hi, hi. Hi, hi, hi. Talking, chatting, talking. Just a little sound check. Hi there. Hello. Hello, 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 hello. Hello, hello, hello. Hi, this is Dean talking. Hi. Hi, there's Charles adjusting stuff. And hey! Hey! You're looking pretty dapper, Michael.
My name is Paula Lucas, and I'm the founder and
Can you
executive
hear me pretty
director
well?
of the Americans Overseas Domestic Violence Crisis Center. Right out of
you
university,
hear me
I
pretty
married
well?
a man who was a Newsweek photojournalist, British boarding school
Okay,
education,
how about now?
spoke 3 languages, and he was a Palestinian national.
Okay, I'm chatting and chatting and chatting,
had a
and the
driver.
level seems okay.
We had 3 beautiful sons. We traveled, all over Europe and the
Okay,
Middle East
how's
and
the level
Far
now?
East, but I hid a secret that he
Still
was
kinda
very,
low
very abusive.
level?
I think probably the abuse started when we were dating, but I didn't recognize it. Things that were kind of done to control, but in a flattering way,
How's it
so I
going?
didn't realize it was happening. Then in 1995, in December of 1995, he acquired his
How about now?
American citizenship.
Okay, I'm testing
And the
1, 2, 3.
abuse
Testing 1,
almost
2, 3. Hello,
increased
hello, hello.
exponentially.
And I'm
He didn't
still
need me anymore.
testing
Then
1, 2, 3.
after that, the abuse got really
1,
bad.
1,
He
1.
took
Hello.
2 pieces of paper and he folded them.
A little
in,
bit of sound check and
really
saying
small,
howdy.
and he put
1,
them
2,
on the
3.
table
Hi,
and he
hi,
made me
hi.
roll them like
Chat,
dice.
chat, chat. Hi,
And
hi,
one
hi.
said die and one said don't die.
Hi there. Hello, 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 hello. Doing a sound check and
And I
saying
rolled don't
hello,
die 3
hello,
times.
hello, hello.
On one occasion,
Hello
he
there,
strangled me
Michael.
on the bed and he
Hi,
forced
hi,
my
hi.
oldest son at the time, who was 7, to come out.
Okay, how's it going?
And if I
Are you hearing
ever
me?
left
Getting any
with
sounds
the
at all there?
boys and left him, that he would hunt us down and
Okay.
slaughter us like
Hi.
animals. As an American woman,
So the
being
volume
abused in a
is-
foreign country, there wasn't a single person I could call
Okay.
that knew what I was going
And the
through.
volume seems
So
okay?
I knew if I ever got out, and I think that was part of my bargaining with Spirit, with God, was if you get me out of here, I promise I'll help other people.
Yeah, I get it.
I
heard
am a
him.
trained social worker. I do hold a master's degree of social work. And I witness consistent abuse and violence in my home. My mother was repeatedly beaten by my father. One
Okay, I'm
occasion,
testing
she
1,
was
2, 3.
almost
Testing
died,
1, 2, 3.
killed
Hi there.
by
Hello,
my
hello,
father.
hello.
He was
Hello,
dragging
hello, hello.
by her
Testing 1,
hair
2, 3.
on the street.
Testing 1, 2, 3.
She was
Hello,
saying
hello, hello.
stop,
Hello, hello, hello.
and he
This is
didn't
Dean over
stop.
here. Sound, doing a sound check. Hello.
Continue
This
to
is Dean.
beat. When children know
Hello,
that
hello, hello. Okay, great. Hi.
it's for them,
How's the volume right now? Is that
when their
okay?
mother is suffering and staying, what we do is
Okay.
try to end our life or try to remove ourselves from home. And I was lucky that when I overdosed, I was found. I'm alive. I still have nightmares, but if I have a choice, I would like to be born and there is no violence. I can say myself and I can say my mom is, look, we didn't go through this for nothing. We can make different. We can rewrite our story. We can together rewrite, create new story, not only for ourselves, for other women, other
As
children.
presence.
When
Presence.
I was 21, I was pregnant. My fiance, he lunged at me. He threw me into a few walls, and I started spotting.
I'm well, thanks. I can hear you
I
both,
called the
and
police,
I'm humbled
and
to
they
be with
told
you.
him to,
I really want to hear more
to
about
settle
your
down,
project
or
at
they
some
would take
point,
him
and
to
then we'll
jail.
look you up
That
on
just made him more angry. He had a history of violence. He threatened that if I tried to leave, he would kill me. He did try that. I was able to get away only by fighting my way out. I grabbed a knife. I got him in the neck. He died from the stab wound. He was violent because he was a victim of abuse first. He was really badly abused as a child. Statistically, the women die. Statistically, the few of us that survive we go to prison. If I had to choose again, I would choose my child. And if I hadn't have done something I believed truly with all my heart, I would be dead, and so would she.
Okay, and we're back. That was quite moving.
Thank
One
you.
word for it. There was something about that little girl. What was her situation?
Well, she was a very small baby. Well, she wasn't that small. She was standing up in her crib when her mother was murdered by mother's boyfriend, partner, but ex-partner, and all of the what was it called? The when you file to keep somebody away from you.
Restraining order.
Restraining order, thank you. All those things were in place. And he still got there and killed her with stabbing her several times, and then drug her to the tub and went and took the child, who had witnessed the whole thing,
Right.
picked the child up, threw gasoline, and set the apartment on fire, and took the child downstairs to the apartment manager, gave the child to the manager, and walked off.
Oh,
That happened in Medford.
my.
By the way,
By the way.
it wasn't down in L.A.
Right
It
here
was
in
right
River
here
City.
in River City.
Oh my God.
We got trouble.
Okay. We have our earbuds in because we are joined now on our Google Hangout by Dean Walker, connecting to us from Guatemala. So Dean, hi and welcome. And what are your thoughts about what's going on?
Well, thanks, Michael, for having me. It's great to be back on RBTV, albeit briefly. And I'm humbled to be on the show, especially with your guests. I want to forewarn you all that I come from a very different perspective and honor absolutely what's been said so far. And I have no expertise in the counseling and the policy changes at the level they've been talking about. I respect what they've said, absolutely. I come to this conversation more from an awareness of media issues, how this has been reported and that sort of thing, and also from a career of working with executives in corporations and what PR is like, what its function is as basically broad-scale advertising. And I think the bottom line for me in this whole conversation from this perspective is the bottom line, is that this whole thing is about money. And if this wasn't a valuable player in a multi-billion-dollar industry, we wouldn't be talking about it. It would be just another case of abuse in any city USA.
Absolutely.
And I think the only way that serious change is going to happen at the level of visibility that this is occurring on is to have some sort of policy shift to accompany the different policy and law shifts that I think your other guests are pointing to. And I know that there's no easy answer here. I don't mean to imply there's an easy answer here, but I think from the business side, from the NFL, the business side, the money side, if there isn't a drastic cost to this kind of behavior that is immediate and clear and a strong, aligned sense of integrity that's expressed from all the owners through the NFL voice of, in this case, Goodell, nothing's going to happen. That it'll just be brushed under the table because money has the power to either have this get into the press or not, have this be of influence or not. So I should leave it there because I know that's kind of bold talking, and I don't mean to, take it off track from the other type of conversation about laws and policies in a community or a state or federal. But at the business level, money is what's going to change this.
May I respond to that just briefly?
Yes,
Because
I want to respond.
I really, I couldn't agree more with you. This is, as I was talking earlier about a teachable moment, this is a moment for change. And I totally agree that the bottom line or the profit has, in many cases, takes precedent over right action. And I do not think that any change will happen unless the people who buy those tickets to go to those games do not show their willingness or their unwillingness to participate in this violence or whatever transgressions that are done by these folks, unless the people who give money to this $250 billion corporation, where did they get that money? They got that money from individuals, fans, PR, and sponsors. And when the sponsors pull away, as they have in a couple of these cases, Nike, a couple of these cases, and when the people stop buying tickets and start demanding action, right action over bottom line, that's when you're going to see some change. So I do think that you're right on the money because the money is where it's going to start.
And I think just to add something to that that's quite interesting is that 45% of the NFL fan base are females.
Wow.
And that's a lot of power, 45%.
That's right.
But of course, women don't know that they have power. So we have to keep telling them their dollars count.
Yes.
I think this is a perfect situation. I've been working on this film for 3 years. And I think we are just at that point where we're ready to burst out with it and go with it. And we've done all our homework. And here this comes up. And in a very sort of selfish way, I'm glad that this all happened now, because it's a perfect time to start dealing with this.
It is. It's now.
Mike,
And I totally
may I
agree
chime
with
in?
you. It's all about the money with the NFL, because if it's not, they won't change.
That's right. For people who are interested in supporting this,